So joining us today is Virgo, the founder and executive director of the Keney Park Sustainability Project, which is a community-driven initiative based here in Hartford. Has dedicated his career to environmental justice, youth empowerment, and building a more sustainable and self-reliant future for urban communities. Through farming, education, and hands-on green infrastructure work, he's helping to transform lives and land in one of the oldest and largest public parks in New England. Please welcome Virgo.
Thank you.
Awesome. So thank you so much for joining us today. I would just love to get started and would love to hear what led you to start the Keney Park Sustainability Project and if there was a particular moment that helped plant that seed.
Sure. So originally from Hartford, born and raised, went to Hartford Public High School. After Hartford Public, went to Connecticut College in New London, Connecticut. And after Conn College, moved to Florida to work for a wilderness education program. And was down there for about 9 years, but feeling this call to come home. Came back home and my family was involved in an annual festival called the Keney Park Family Day Festival. And started working with them. And soon after, they transitioned to the Greater Hartford Festival of Jazz, and I kind of took over the Family Day Festival. But annual festivals weren't really exciting to me. It seemed like a lot of work for a one-day event. So started brainstorming about what can we do to help the community, what can we do to help sustain the organization, and also support the park. And the Keney Park Sustainability Project is what came out of that brainstorming process. In addition to visiting Growing Power in Milwaukee, which was an urban agriculture education program as well. So once visiting them, taking some workshops and some classes out there, slowly started to bring the programming back to Hartford piece by piece.
Awesome. I love that. I mean, as a Hartford local myself, I know how special Keney Park is. I would just love to hear, if you could share how you and your team are using the space to connect people with the land and with each other as well.
Basically by just setting up programming in different spaces in Keney. I think a lot of times Keney gets a bad rap. Keney has had a cycle of narratives that has not been very positive. So our goal was to try to reshape that narrative. And one of the ways we thought we could do that was just to create more activity. We felt that if more people were in the park, there'd be less crime, there'd be less littering, there'd be less illegal dumping. So we started to just generate programming that occupies spaces in the park that the community had access to. So whether it was a walking club or activating trails or park cleanups or just general events, we just try to create as much activity as possible for the community in the park.
I love that. So many people think of sustainability that is something like expensive and out of reach, and in layman terms, like a rich white people thing. How do you make sustainability feel accessible and relevant to the community that we're in?
I don't know if we even approach it from a sustainability perspective. I mean, it is the name of the organization, but I think what our message is, our underlying message to the community is reconnecting to the healing power of nature. And I think sustainability then becomes a byproduct of that process as opposed to the original goal, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that being more connected to the land is a big tenet of making sustainability more accessible and just being more part of an ecosystem rather than putting humans at the center of it. So
Correct.
Absolutely. I think just on that note, what do you think environmental justice looks like in a city like for Hartford?
Well, that's a great question, especially at this time, right? Like, what does it look like in the city and what does it look like, nationally? But I think for the city of Hartford, it's important because for many years, Hartford has been the area where all the other towns dump their trash, right? So we're dealing with generations who have been negatively impacted by living close to a landfill with higher asthma rates, higher, illness rates across the city. So for me, environmental justice in Hartford means protecting our community from the dumping of trash and other garbage within our city boundaries and activating our green spaces. We have over 2,000 acres of green space that the city of Hartford owns within Hartford boundaries, including Batterson Park. Environmental justice to me means really making a connection to those green spaces with our schools, with our churches, and with our City of Hartford Park and Recs departments.
Yeah, I think on that note, what you're really saying is that there is a sort of historical neglect that's going on in Hartford. And I think sort of combating that is going to take a generational effort. And so you work closely with a lot of young people, and I would love to know what you have learned from them and what gives you hope when you look at the next generation of environmental leaders.
I think, I mean, I've been doing this for a very long time, but I still feel that every time a child or young person, or even a senior or an adult, is introduced to nature in a mindful way, it's a brand new experience, and then starts a chain reaction that improves the overall well-being of them and the people around them, right? So young people, yes, definitely just getting them out there, right? A lot of people that live in the Hartford boundary, especially in the North End, they know of Keney Park and they see Keney Park as a place to go dirt bike riding or to hook up or to do drugs and stuff like that. But the first time that they're in the park and they're sitting down and they're looking at different types of trees, or they're quiet and they're hearing different birds, or they're, just noticing things growing or going on a foraging hike, it just opens up a portion of their brain that I think is just, is why we do what we do.
No, I love that message. I would really love to hear you, just especially as such a big leader in Hartford. What does Earth Day mean personally for you, and what do you hope that people walk away with today thinking and feeling differently?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, I'm one of those people that feel like, what else are we here for but to take care of the Earth? Like, to me, everything else is secondary behind like prioritizing the Earth and keeping it healthy and having a symbiotic relationship with it. So I think if our focus can turn towards the Earth moving forward, and I think coincidentally, all the crazy stuff that's happening nationally is going to push us back into our communities. It's going to push us back into our green space. It's kind of like what COVID did, right? Like, I feel like the positive effect of this insanity is going to be a deeper connection to the Earth. So I think Earth Day provides folks like us with the opportunity to share tools for people to be able to do that moving forward.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you bring that up. I think something that people forget a lot of the time when climate crises and national disasters happen, the first communities that are affected are people of color and marginalized communities. And oftentimes it can feel very overwhelming to try and combat those really systemic issues. If a concerned Hartford citizen wanted to get involved, like what advice would you give them?
Well, I think there's a number of organizations or agencies that are focusing on this kind of reconnecting to nature. I think one of the first things would be to kind of check out Keney Park Sustainability Project, and then kind of let us help them figure out where their lane is or what their interest is, and we'd be able to direct them to whatever organization, one of our partners, a local farmer, or a different school, or educator that we think could help them, get to where they're trying to be.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was so lovely speaking with you. I'd just love to open up the floor to any questions if anyone has them. Thanks.
Oh, very happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Jeff, please.
What's the next crazy project?
You don't want to know. So we are looking at adding rural spaces outside of the city of Hartford to our programming. So, for example, the new Riverfront Park, the newly renovated Batterson Park, the currently being renovated Channel 3 Country Camp, and then also Camp Coyote, which is in Andover, Connecticut. So expanding the programming to these rural spaces as well is what we're working on currently.
Outside of just the different challenges that come with being in an urban community or urban land versus rural land, do you think that there are certain challenges that young people especially face in rural parts of Connecticut, and how do you plan on addressing those issues?
It's so interesting you asked that, because in our research in this expansion, we found out that the issues are so similar, right? Like not having access to healthcare, not have access to local foods. It's happening in the rural area as well as in the urban area. So we're hoping to use these spaces to be able to serve both, because a lot of the issues are very similar.
Do you ever plan on when that comes into fruition, ever plan on mixing the two groups and maybe bringing the Hartford kids over to Andover?
Yes, so that's how we would start. We would start by bringing the Hartford kids out to Andover or out to these rural spaces, because that's kind of where our funding comes from, right? But in addition to that, having families and communities in the rural spaces use those spaces as well, and for them to see those spaces as theirs, and them hosting Hartford families and Hartford youth in their spaces.
Very cool. Just bringing everyone together. I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Not all at once, please. Well, thank you so much for your time. This was awesome.
You're very welcome.
I'm going to be a high five. I don't know.